Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yasodanandana Braja Janananda Yasodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamunatira Panachari Yamunatira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Janarandana Yasodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtota Sarishla A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Go Premanandi All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivasesha Sunyavadi Pastachade Shatani. This sounds like a strange question, but which way is east? Which way? Behind me is east. East. So west, east is behind me. South is over there. Yes. I'd have to look at that a bit more detail. But I'm just wondering about this this carpet fascinates me. I thought it would be pointing towards Mecca or something. It's pointing so this way is Mecca. So each prayer person has one little cubicle each to sit facing Mecca. Isn't that fascinating? If what you say is true, then if the carpet is actually geared, they must have had this tailor-made somewhere in the Middle East probably, and shipped here, because it doesn't seem to have any break or joints in it of any kind. Maybe it does, but if it does, goodness knows where they are. There must be some. How they get it in here without, I don't know. Mystical, unless they made it in here. Unlikely. But it's fascinating, huh? Just see at least the faith, whatever it may be a little lacking, I don't know, some kind of higher knowledge of some kind, but tremendous faith to, like that. If we can think, which direction is Vrindavan? You turn right or left out the front? It's a similar direction, isn't it? Similar. It would be similar. You should calculate. Maybe you have to go through Mecca to get to Vrindavan. You know, it's amazing. So this building, I heard, was a church, then it was used by the Muslim community, and now by all of you wonderful devotees using it for, you could say, the perfection of all the other purposes to glorify, especially Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sankirtan mission. Which verse are you reading today? Pardon? Number?
353, Maharaj.
This one here?
Yes, Maharaj.
353.
Yes.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, text number 3. Vidura's talks with Maitreya. Vidura is speaking to Maitreya. Janasya Krishnad Vimukasya Daivad Adharma Shilasya Sudukritasya Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunang Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya Janasya Krishnad Vimukasya Daivad Adama Shilasya Sudukitasya Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya Janasya Krishnad Vimukasya Daivad Adama Shilasya Sudukitasya Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam Bhutani bhavyani janardanasya Janasya Krishnad Vimukasya Daivad Adharmashilasya Sudukitasya Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya Anugrahayena Charanti Nunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya David. Janasya Krishna Daivad Dharmasilasya Sudukitasya Anugrahaya Charanti Nunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya Ladies, Krishna Vimukasya Devad Asya Sudakasya Anugrahayeha Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Devad Adharmashilasya Sadukitasya Ayena Janardanasya Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Devad Adharmashilasya Sadukitasya Nugrahayeha Charanti Nunam Lasya Sudukitasya Anugrahayeha Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya Janasya of the common man Krishnat from the Supreme Lord Krishna Vimukasya of the one who has turned his face against the Lord. Daivat, by the influence of external energy. Adharma Shilasya, of one who is engaged in irreligion. Sudukitasya, of one who is always unhappy. Anugrahaya, due to being compassionate towards them. Iha, in this world. Charanti, wander. Nunam, certainly. Bhutani, persons. Bhavyani, great philanthropic souls. Janardanasya, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. So Vidura speaks to Maitreya. O my Lord, great philanthropic souls travel on the earth on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to show compassion to the fallen souls who are averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord. A nice verse. Prabhupada writes, to be obedient to the wishes of the Supreme Lord is the natural position of every living entity. But due only to past misdeeds, a living being becomes averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord and suffers the miseries of material existence. No one has anything to do but render devotional service to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Therefore, any activity other than transcendental loving service to the Lord is more or less a rebellious action against the Supreme Will. All fruitive activity, empirical philosophy, and mysticism are more or less against the sense of subordination to the Lord. Prabhupada uses this more or less twice here. It is, but it's maybe more or less. It's not is or isn't. It is, but it's more or less. Some more than others. And any living entity engaged in such rebellious activity is more or less condemned by the laws of nature. That's the third time he's used this term, more or less. Interesting. Such person, material nature, which works under the subordination of the Lord. Great, unalloyed devotees of the Lord are compassionate towards the fallen, and therefore they travel all over the world with the mission of bringing souls back to Godhead, back to home. Such pure devotees of the Lord carry the message of Godhead in order to deliver the fallen souls, and therefore the common man who is bewildered by the influence of the external energy of the Lord should avail himself of their association. Wonderful verse, spoken by Vidura. It brings to mind several, in fact, Vidura also involved there, and Yudhisthira Maharaj spoke when Vidura returned to the court in Hastinapura after the great battle of Kurukshetra was finished, and Dhritarashtra lost all of his sons, was more or less, you could say, humiliated, living a humiliated life, dependent upon the sons of Pandu, the very enemies of his family, his son's enemy, and he's living at their cost, you could say, like a household dog, as Vidura later said. Just like a household dog, trying to enjoy yourself now, due to the good hearts of the Pandavas. They're looking after you. But Vidura had been away because he was not at all in approval of Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra's plot. and he went on pilgrimage. So when he finally returned after many years, King Yudhisthira addressed him with this beautiful verse. I don't know if you've got the books in this room, but it would be nice to read that verse also. First Canto, chapter 13, text number 10, I think. We can read the purport also if it's there. 1:13:10. Well, I can't. I need a book. You can put it on the board, but I need a book. A book is coming. I think it's 1:13:10. 11, 1:13:10, 10. Getting old and we're forgetting. Even Prabhupada said that. 1:13:10. Thank you. So Yudhisthira Maharaj is so nicely receiving his uncle, Vidura, and this verse is perhaps the most. There's a whole series of interesting verses. How Vidura himself, although he's addressing Maitreya in today's verse as being such a magnanimous personality, so compassionate, and to deliver this message, which, as we are obviously aware, more or less, we've got to use that word in the class today. Probably use it 3 times in the purport. More or less, everyone's aware of the value of spreading Krishna consciousness, especially in today's world with the instability, even from not just from the normal point of view. Life is unstable anyway in this world, but from the point of view of the world affairs, dangerous. Masutiye padapalavaplavam padam punya yashomarare. There is danger at every step, and people are more or less wasting their human forms of life, and they're not worshipping the personality of Godhead. Shrama Avi Kevalam. They're engaged in activities which are basically a useless waste of time. Human life particularly is meant for jivasya tattva jignas, for inquiring into the nature of the absolute truth, not for kamasya nindriya pratirvas. But people think that human life is for sense gratification. And here we see that this mentality itself causes so many reactions, birth and death and suffering in this world. So the pure devotees of the Lord, sadhus, they try to preach this message. A real sadhu preaches the message of the absolute for the deliverance of the conditioned souls. Tabhagatamritam taptajivan. Even Radharani herself expresses this mood, how the only relief for those suffering in this world, which means everyone, is the topic spoken by or about the personality of Godhead. And such topics should be, or subject matter should be spread everywhere. And those those who are spreading this message are the greatest welfare workers. This is the greatest welfare. Everything else is, it's just like a sinking ship, and you're just feeding people on the sinking ship, and they feel, or you're giving them some gratification on the sinking ship, but they're all about to drown. People are drowning with no idea what's happening, why they're drowning, and what happens once they're drowned, and so on. They're in deep, dark ignorance. So a devotee is compassionate, as you would be to your brother if we have a brother or sister and they're in trouble, naturally you'll try to help them. They're falling or drowning or something, you'll definitely go and try to save them. No doubt about that. So when we realize that factor, we may not have realized it, but we're following those who have realized it, that every living entity, we're all, in one sense, we're all brothers, we're all coming from the same Father. No matter what we're doing right now, how devious or whatever it may be, or water it down, we may be engaging, as mentioned. In today's verse, it's gone, the book's gone. But there is more or less, everyone's engaged in rebellious nature. Even following religious principles, people are rebellious. Tendency to be rebellious. What is a rebel? What is a rebel? Rebel. What is it? A rebel. What would be a definition?
To go against the established authority.
Okay, go against it. So in this world we call them a rebel. If they're, breaking the law, going against the law, they don't care for the law. They don't care for authority. They want to start a rebellion, tear down the authority, whatever it is. But everyone, even those who are supposedly be the authorities in this world, are also rebels, because they're not following the authority of Godhead. They're not living their life, to some degree, but it's mixed. Those who are following what we call religious principles today, this Naimittika Dharma, this relative religion, related to time, place, and circumstance. People don't know that, so that's not to be totally discouraged by any means, but it should be followed properly, because if in itself it doesn't awaken the real purpose, one's still on some degree of rebellious nature, that their real business is to eternally serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But there's lack of either who is the personality of Godhead, who am I, that I'm supposed to serve Him, and even if I am, how do I do it? What does it mean? So that most of that is lacking, at least now, and compassion. What's the meaning of compassion? Who knows? Compassion. Pardon?
Mercy. And given mercy, it's not necessarily causes mercy, I guess you'd say.
Calls us mercy, well, it's on a high level, isn't it? Calls us mercy, yeah. Even though the person may not be, you could say, wanting, they may not appreciate, they may not care, but you do. And in the material world, it's it's defined by whatever principles they stand by. What is compassion? Compassion to some animals, but not to others, for instance, or to certain persons. No matter what, you're always feeling sorry for them, you're trying to uplift them, trying to help them, whatever it may be, cure them. So real compassion, however, is not just the compassion, as Prabhupada would often give the example of the drowning man in the ocean. You save the coat, but you don't save the man. So material compassion is a bit like that. There are indications of its benefits in a bigger picture, but in of itself it's completely material. Even the desire for liberation, of course you could say, we would like to see that for all, but that's also real compassion. When we go back to the root, today is apparently the appearance day of Radha Kund. Some disagree, but according to our Vaishnava calendar today, Bahalashtami is the appearance day of Radha Kund, and she's non-different than Radharani. And Radharani is said to be the of Krishna.
Internal potency.
Yeah, that's her energy, you could say. What else?
Eternal consort.
Stick to the words we're using. Not more or less. Let's have the real one.
Compassionate.
Pardon?
Compassionate.
Yes, she's the manifestation of Krishna's compassion. The real compassion is found in Radharani. And what is her compassion? How is that? Of course, we've just heard the verse spoken by her. Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam. Kavibiriditam kalmashapaham, and so on. But what is her real compassion?
Engaging the living entities in devotional service.
Excuse me?
Is it engaging the living entities in devotional service?
And that you could say is the external, or the external factor. And we could look at it very simplistically. Let's look at it simplistically. That's a natural consequence of her inner compassion. Her compassion is for Krishna. That, it's like, let me say, okay, give an example, try. Say some of you, I don't know if anyone here has children. Any of the ashram grihastas? Let me put my glasses on to see who that is. You have children? Okay. So, say for instance, hopefully it's not the case, say one of your children leaves and goes off and disappears and goes completely in another world. Obviously it's very painful for you as a parent, naturally. So anyone who loves you, their compassion would be, they're seeing your suffering. Because Krishna in one sense doesn't suffer, but in another sense, this example is not perfect, but it does in another way, is to bring that child back to you. I don't know that child, but I can see your suffering. So somehow or another, I'm going to try to get that child back for you. Right? Arjuna, Krishna, they went to the Vaikunthas to bring back the dead sons of the Dwarka Brahmana. So that's compassion to you, you could say. So she's feeling compassion because you're the one suffering like anything. Maybe the child is too. He's maybe not aware of that. The real compassion, they may not appreciate it. Just like a drowning man may fight against you when you try to save them. But Radharani's compassion is that Krishna's parts and parcels, his energies, are not bringing him pleasure as such, not directly. So she wants to see that Krishna's pleasure increases. And that's the Sankirtan movement, to increase the pleasure of the Lord. That's Sankirtan, isn't it? To increase the glorification of Krishna. His name, form, pastimes, activity, qualities, and so on. That's Sankirtan, those topics. So she's always engaged in that, of course, and she wants to see that everyone else is too, bringing pleasure to her Lord. And as a consequence, that means, of course, the preaching and the deliverance of all the conditioned souls from their ignorance. Awakening them, just like Prabhupada sometimes gives an example of a man, a husband, hopefully, waking up his wife for sexual pleasure. It's a bit external example, but Prabhupada gives it. For enjoyment. It's not just to wake him up and they're awake. Liberation is just wake up, but there's no enjoyment. There's no pleasure for Krishna. So what is the compassion of liberation? There's no pleasure for Krishna there. In fact, there's less likely pleasure than there is than the person in the material world. At least they might say his name. They might give a donation. They might do some unknown service. Something is there possibly, but the platform of liberation is just nothing. There's no service whatsoever. There's no consciousness of Krishna whatsoever. Not as a person. There's no personal relationship there. Like a stone. Even more relationship with a stone, at least you can use it. But liberation is nothing, as far as relationship goes. So these other objectives, going to heaven, what for? What do you want to go to heaven for? Why do you want to go to heaven? Pardon? Maybe. Avoid suffering, enjoy, be happy, be with your family, no death. There's different ideas, I suppose. Kingdom of God, but the kingdom of God is a little more than just the idea of heaven. Everything's the kingdom of God. Even hell, everywhere is the kingdom of Brahman, everywhere is the kingdom of God. But in any kingdom, there are different places, they're not all the same. There's prison houses, there's hospitals, there's workshops, there's all kinds of things going on. Yeah. In any kingdom. So everything's the kingdom of God. Devotee sees like everything, everyone, and everything belongs to Krishna. This premise, a very foundational understanding of Krishna consciousness, isn't it? Everything belongs to Krishna and should be used in his service, isn't it? Isn't that the teachings of Rupa Goswami? What does he say? Yeah, I mean, everything that can be should be used in Krishna's service, because we shouldn't reject anything that can be used in Krishna's service, just like a car or an airplane or whatever. Prabhupada taught us to use everything, because it belongs to Krishna, it doesn't belong to us. It's his property. It's not our business. This is mine. And big philosophy nowadays, your body is yours. You can do what you like with it. But a devotee understands everything, including your body. Everything belongs to Krishna. It's meant for his pleasure. This is compassions of devotees to teach these practical principles. There's a more famous verse in the Ishopanishad. Ishavasyam. How does it go? Say. You know this verse? Ladies know the verse? Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagacham jagat. Tena vunjita magadikasya svidanam. Very famous verse. Prabhupada gave this book, Ishopanishad, one of the first books printed in ISKCON. Maybe I don't know which was the first, it may have been the first. I'm not sure, but really early print, really early. Ishavas. And he would talk directly or indirectly on this principle a lot, Ishavasham principle, that everything that exists is the property of the Lord, whether animate or inanimate, and should be used in his service, not for our sense gratification. Learning how to use things for his service. So this is compassion. Everything is Krishna's energy, belongs to him, and if you use it otherwise, for instance in this country, we don't necessarily have many possessions. You are living a life of devotion, but renunciation. But say a person in general has a house and a car and various money and this and that. Legally they belong to him or her. And if you just go up and start using it, there's a car, it's just parked on the street. So I just, break the window and fiddle around and drive it off. And so obviously it just sits there on the street. It's just as much mine as an animal may think like that, but a human being who's animalistic may think like that too. But in reality, that car is belonging, not reality, but in this material world, belongs to somebody. And if you do that, what will happen? Pardon?
You go to jail.
You probably go to jail. You'll get arrested. You're a criminal. You're a criminal. Somebody rebels, goes against the government, is also maybe arrested and put in prison too. We're all rebels. The material world is that prison. Material world is a prison house for the rebels. All rebels. It's a prison house. So we're trying to, the pure devotees come into the prison house to try to reform people. You know, that's the reason they come. What business do they have in this material world? They come here. Or you may go somewhere for a purpose. You don't just, maybe some people just go to check it out. That's also a purpose. You go somewhere for a purpose. So the pure devotees, the Lord comes into this world for a purpose, to establish real religious principles, not just this accommodating situation. Being a good guy, honesty amongst thieves, being a good guy in the material world, so-called, relatively. But no, real compassion is to deliver the living entity for eternity, to reinstate them in bringing pleasure to Krishna. As we're practicing that principle now, we're going to read this verse now, which is a beautiful verse, spoken by Vidura. My Lord, Bhavadvida Bhagavatas. All together. Is it on the board? Bhavadvida Bhagavatas. Well, I'll read, you read. Bhavadvida Bhagavatas. Bhavadvida Bhagavatas. Let's see, do it three times. Bhavadvida Bhagavatas. Tirthabhuta Svayam Vibho. Tirthabhuta Svayam Vibho. Tirthabhuta Svayam Vibho. Tirti Kurvanti Tirtani. Tirti Kurvanti Tirtani. Tirti Kurvanti Tirtani. That line is very famous, isn't it? Tirti Kurvanti. Do you know what it means? Yeah, these great devotees, they'd convert everywhere into a tirtha. Everywhere becomes a holy place wherever they go. Wherever Prabhupada came to Atlanta, 1975. Huh? Was it Ponce de Leon? Is it the street? Ponce de Leon. That's French. Ponce de Leon. Oh, something French here. See? Maybe there's a lot of French people that we go take our French books there.
Spanish.
Huh?
It's a Spanish.
Spanish. Oh, is it Spanish or French?
Leon.
That's Spanish. Oh. Oh, okay, so it's not French. The language is almost the same. It sounds French, but it's Spanish. Oh, what a shame. What a shame. What to do? Yeah, they convert everywhere. It becomes it's hard to see how, but it becomes a tirtha, purified by their presence, their touch. Remains such. How much we take advantage of it, it's another thing, but there is still a benefit there. Svantakstena gadabhita. Svantakstena gadabhita. Svantakstena gadabhita. So, nice verse to learn. Huh? Translation. My Lord, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified, because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart. You turn all places into places of pilgrimage. You know, usually when you say, show compassion, let's say there's an earthquake, or you may have some disaster like a big cyclone. You call it cyclone in America? Tornado? Tornado. Hurricane or tornado? Hurricane. Hurricane. Tornado is a little different. Hurricane, huh? a big hurricane. There was one just now in Florida, isn't it? Pardon?
There were 2 more.
Was it? Any of our temples were damaged?
No.
They were safe, that's good. They're quite strong hurricanes. And then people come, I've come to help. I mean, if you just go there and say you've come to help, it's not very much use. Maybe you can help pick up a few stones and get people out of the broken buildings, but they expect you to bring something, some equipment, some food, some water, some clothing, isn't it? Something. If everyone's dying of hunger and you just come and say, I've come to help you, we haven't got a single grain of rice with you, it'll make it even worse because you've got to eat as well. One more mouth to feed. So they expect you to bring something. And this compassion, feeding people. So a devotee has to have something. You don't just go to a place, but you should have something to give. Same thing we could say with books, isn't it? If you go on walking down the street, you don't have a book. Always have a book. Even if you don't distribute them, just carry them at least. You never know. Krishna might arrange some, and you may take advantage of Krishna's arrangement. But if you don't have any books, you can't give them a book. You can speak something if you want. But books are the real holy place of pilgrimage. Every book is a holy place of pilgrimage. Just imagine every single book is like that. Tomorrow I'll read some nice little quotes which I found. I was going through my notes yesterday on the plane trying to sort out 20 years of notes. So many hundreds of duplications and all over the place. So trying to put them in a little bit better order. And some nice quotes on different aspects of Sankirtan. Maybe one or two, maybe tomorrow. Let's see if we're still here. So you're expected to take something with you. The devotee, well, of course, here it says you expect to carry something with you. Help an old lady across the road. She got a heavy bag. You're supposed to carry it and help her across the road and help people. We have to be carrying something. We can't just go empty-handed. We have to carry something. We're not Buddhist or Mayavads with all-nothing mentality. We're carrying something substantial. And here it says, because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart, conscious of Krishna, seeing everything in relationship with Krishna, no matter what it is, and every living entity, how to engage them in Krishna, reconnect them to Krishna, how to wake them up to this Lord Chaitanya's mission, to wake up the sleeping souls, Jeev Jago, wake up sleeping souls. Because you don't just convert places because you go there, because you carry the personality of Godhead, and by His presence everything becomes purified by His presence. Prabhupada writes in the purport, the personality of Godhead is omnipresent by His diverse potencies everywhere, just as the power of electricity is distributed everywhere within space. Similarly, the Lord's omnipresence is perceived and manifested by His unalloyed devotees like Vidura, just as electricity is manifested in an electric bulb. A pure devotee like Vidura always feels the presence of the Lord everywhere. He sees everything in the potency of the Lord, and the Lord in everything. The holy places all over the earth are meant for purifying the polluted consciousness of the human being by an atmosphere surcharged with the presence of the Lord's unalloyed devotees. If anyone visits a holy place, he must search out the pure devotees residing in such holy places, take lessons from them, try to apply such instructions in practical life, and thus gradually prepare oneself for the ultimate salvation of going back to Godhead. So that one sentence sums up or contains many of the points of the verse we read for today's class. And the importance of searching out or finding, which was emphasized by Srila Prabhupada, I think, I don't know if the verse did, but Prabhupada did, that we have to search out such association of great devotees of the Lord, because they alone can wake us up or change by association, our consciousness can change. So search it out. They create these holy places. Take lessons from them. Try to apply such instructions in practical life. Thus gradually prepare oneself for the ultimate, not just a relative, ultimate salvation of going back to Godhead. To go to some holy place of pilgrimage does not mean only to take a bath in the Ganges or Yamuna, or to visit the temples situated in those places. One should also find representatives of Vidura who have no desire in life save and except to serve the personality of Godhead. What's that famous verse? Yasyatma bodhi guna vadi eva gokara. That's a missing point in most people's understanding. Even we may sometimes miss it a little bit. But the purpose of going to a holy place, a temple, or associating, when we say holy place, when we associate with a devotee, that's the same thing. We don't associate with a devotee to talk about mundane things or to enjoy sense gratification. At least we shouldn't do it. There may be an element of that in preaching sometimes for the sake of attracting others, but that's not the purpose. Probably we should inquire when we go to a holy person, a holy place. We should be to hear from them. We want to hear the truth from them. And gradually prepare oneself to go to a holy place. One should also find the representatives of the personality of Godhead. We have no desire, they are Nivrita Trishna. When we hear from those who are Nivrita Trishna, unfortunately people go to the holy places to take a bath, or they maintain a bodily concept of life. Even when they're with a holy person, they see them materially, and they're attached to their body, they think it's the self, and they think this is mine, that's yours. All these illusions which they're in, when they don't really inquire, they don't want to change all of that. They expect the holy person to fulfill all of those illusions. Give me a better body, give me more money, give me more sense enjoyment. Give me a position, give me a wife, give me a husband, give me fun. Whatever it is. But they don't realize that mentality is what's causing the problem. Pure devotees they may, obviously use their common sense, but they have no intention of fulfilling those various illusions, those various dreams that people have, which simply bind people in the cycle of birth and death. And Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, Prabhupada quotes him, he describes a sadhu like that he was harsh words sometimes, he cuts out the nonsense. But most people go to the holy place or holy people expecting some material benediction or freedom from some sinful activity of some kind or another. Most religions are geared towards that too. One should also find representative of Vidura there like that there. And he gives an example there, like the executioner stands over the goat with his chopper, chunk. Cut it out. Cut it out. It's poisoned. Has to be removed. The personality of God is always with such pure devotees because they're unalloyed service. And that's compassionate. It doesn't sound compassionate. Arjuna was killing on the battle of Kurukshetra. Or the sadhu was talking strong words But that's compassion. He's trying to release the living entity from suffering. Permanently take them back to Godhead. Vanchakalpa trubhyascha. Kripa sindhubhyevacha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. There are oceans of compassion for the fallen conditioned soul. We should pay our respects and search out such persons. If you bring the third canto Bhagavatam, chapter 25. Third canto, chapter 25. We'll read that in a little bit. The personality of Godhead is always with such pure devotees because of their unalloyed service. Nirvana, they have no material affection. Their only affection is towards Krishna. And when we hear from such persons, that is what changes our consciousness. By that hearing from such persons, people don't want to listen. They can't. They suffer from, what's this called now, this difficulty of attention. What's it called? ADHD. Pardon? Excuse me? ADHD.
What was the exact verse?
Oh, we'll find it.
325.
Yeah, something like that. 20, I think. Text 20. Something like that. I'll read it in a minute. Yeah, that's it. No, I haven't finished with that one yet. This one can go here. Leave that one there. So they can't. Short class, huh? Until people are a little purified, they can't usually listen to much of a class, can they? 10 minutes max. I mean, that's a long time. 10 minutes is like 10 minutes too long. Even Prabhupada back in the 70s said, what were your 2 minutes or even 5 minutes talk to? They'll forget everything. Yeah. Even if they, for the moment, they may have some, that makes sense. That's interesting. But I've got to go now. And that's the end of that, for a long time. They might remember you, and nice, that's good for them. But if you take a book, Prabhupada said that's something solid. That will be with them. And they're getting the best association, of course, of all. But they don't understand that. Neither do we, really, to a full extent, anyway. So unalloyed devotees whose only concern is for the pleasure of Krishna, which means all of Krishna's energies. You can't love a man, you have to love their dog as well. They are missed something. The personality of God is always with such pure devotees because of their unalloyed service, which is without any tinge of fruitive action or utopian speculation. They are in the actual service of the Lord, specifically by the process of hearing and chanting. The pure devotees hear from the authorities and chant, sing, and write of the glories of the Lord. Mahamuni Vyasadeva heard from Narada, and then he chanted in writing. Shukadeva Goswami studied from his father, and he described it to Parikshit. That is the way of Srimad Bhagavatam. So by their actions, the pure devotees of the Lord can render any place into a place of pilgrimage, and the holy places are worth the name only on their account. Temple, even a devotee, what's the use calling ourselves a devotee if we're not, practicing, we're not delivering the message in some way or another? At least one or both must be there. Such pure devotees are able to rectify the polluted atmosphere of any place. And what to speak of a holy place, rendered unholy by the questionable actions of interested persons who try to adopt a professional life at the cost of the reputation of a holy place. Well, interesting statement. What to speak of a holy place rendered unholy by the questionable actions of interested persons who try to adopt a professional life at the cost of the reputation of a holy place, going to make, money or exploit people in a holy place is very sinful. We don't go there to make money. Although some people may have. We're not going to comment on their situation, but we shouldn't do that. We go there to serve and to hear from the pure devotees of the Lord. Very nice verse. Which Vidura then consequently is addressing Maitreya with the same principle, same understanding. So let's read one or two verses. We'll have to finish a little early today. We're tired and a little bit behind. We're on a different time schedule to all of you. Actually, it doesn't make much difference to me. Wherever I go, I'm on a different time schedule. Even if I stay 6 months in one place, I'm never on the same time schedule as the local devotees. What to do? That's easier for me here because I'm usually 6 hours behind them. In Europe, anyway. This is text 20 of the 25th chapter of the 3rd canto. And who knows this famous verse? Oh, you've got it on the board, right? Yeah. Don't put it. Yes? No?
It's on the board.
Yeah. It's on the board. Boardwalk. Board talk. So you can repeat. Prasangam ajarang pasham atmana kavayo viduhu. You can take this one away now. Put this one there, then I don't have to hold it. We finish with that one. Sa eva sadushu krito mokshadwaram apavitam prasangamajarang pasham atmana kavayo viduhu sa eva sadushu krito mokshadwaram apavitam prasangamajarang pasham atmana kavayo viduhu saeva sarushukto mokshadwaram apavitam. Some of you know this verse. Another nice verse to learn, of course. I mean, you're busy, young, but it's nice to learn some of these key verses. This is the first of a series of key verses spoken by Lord Kapila Dev. Again, out of compassion, she's calling upon her son to be compassionate towards her. Please deliver me from this great dark abyss of material existence, attached to family and this, that, and the other. So Kapila Dev's teachings are especially aimed at that. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. Very attached. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. Nice verse. Huh? Depending, of course, we're our attachment, self-realized devotees. We're not just self-realized, but self-realized devotees. You attach to a self-realized person, but if they're, Brahmavadi or Mayavadi or something, that's something else. But here, self-realized devotees. Prabhupada makes that clear, at least in our case. And what is that real liberation? And it's not just moksha. It is moksha. I mean, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, there's a very famous verse, isn't there? Said, was it? Mukti Bade. And he changed it to Bhakti Bade. He rewrote it. What are you doing here? You can't change Shastric verses like this, although you're a great scholar and pandit. Previously you were talking of moksha, moksha, moksha. Now you cut the word out altogether and put bhakti in there. You Can't do that. But he said, it's true, my Lord, ultimately everything what you say is true. That real mukti is to be reinstated. But whenever anyone sees the word mukti, they think of impersonal liberation, moksha. They think of merging into Brahman. And Lord Chaitanya laughed, laughing. Just see how the heart has changed. Previously he was fully engaged in teaching, basically Mayavad philosophy, impersonalism, Gyan. And now he can't even stand the name of the word itself, brings pain to his heart, because it reminds him of that, something which is not pleasing to Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya was very pleased. But real mukti, or real liberation, is not even just one of the 4 acceptable forms of liberation, but it's to be reinstated in this mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood of Sankirtan, leading to, of course, one's eternal relation with Krishna. We'll just read 1 or 2 other verses. It gives the symptoms, text 21. We don't have time to read purport. The symptoms of a devotee, which are really important. The symptoms awaken us also by association. We develop certain qualities. So by associating with devotees with their qualities, it helps to gradually awaken those qualities within us too. As they have all these wonderful qualities, text 21, 22, and describes a little bit what they do. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections, such as family relationships and family acquaintances within the world. Number 23. Engaged constantly in chanting and hearing about me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sadhus do not suffer from material misery, because they're always filled with thoughts of my pastimes and activities. There's more to that than meets the eye. You can say, well, so devotees also have old age, sickness, death, and so on. But the real suffering is that we're thinking that we can enjoy separately from Krishna as the cause of suffering. So they don't suffer from that. The next verse, which is very nice. O my mother, this is a beautiful verse. Te ete sadhava sadvi, sarva sangha vivarjitaha, sanghas te shvata te prakya, sangha dosha harahite. O my mother, O virtuous lady, these are the qualities of great devotees who are free from all attachment. You must seek attachment to such holy men, for this counteracts the pernicious effects of material attachment. What does pernicious mean? Not a very common word. Why someone pointing at someone else? It reminds you of what Prabhupada we were reading the other day. Prabhupada was, we try to remember. Oh yeah, Prabhupada was reading, and he was calling upon Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Bhagavat were with Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, so what is the verse? And Tamal poked Bhagavat, say the verse. And Bhagavat looked back and said, you say the verse. They were like God brothers close. Neither of them knew the verse. And Bhagavat said, just see, you're not reading my books.
Oh.
And they probably were, but he said, just see, you're not reading my books. He said, even I read my books. You know, Krishna wrote the books.
It means like to have a really bad effect in a gradual way.
Yeah, very, very bad effect. Negative, pernicious effects. You may not perceive it. You think you're going to get a good effect. You're doing something. There's a pernicious effect, horrible effect. So, very negative, very detrimental of material attachment. You think that's going to satisfy you, but it has a very bad effect. Just like a drug addict thinks that if he takes more drugs, he's going to be satisfied. But actually it has a long-term detrimental effect. Many things like that. And then the famous verse, text 25, most famous in this section. Satam prasanghan mama virya sangvido. Now, many of you know that verse. famous. Avantivat karna rasayana kataha. In the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotional service, devotion and devotional service begin. So that's the path, the process of devotional service, evoked in the association. The potential is there in our consciousness, but it's awoken in the association of devotees who have it, who are awake. A dead man can't help another dead man. A sleeping person, well, actually possible if they snore, but in principle, a sleeping person can't wake up another sleeping person. A drowning man cannot save another drowning man. A poverty-stricken man can't make another poverty-stricken man rich. You have to have it. So the sadhu can, by their qualities, by their words, by their compassion, also, this is also another inner compassion too, for the fallen souls. I was praying and meditating on how to deliver the living entities in this world. That's their sadhu. Sadhu's pain, paradukkha dukhi. If they have any suffering, it's because of the suffering of others. So they're always trying to relieve the suffering of others for the pleasure of Krishna. Reconnecting the finger with the body or whatever. Reconnecting. So everyone's happier. Everyone becomes happier. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Interesting to see the next verse also. Thus consciously engaged in devotional service, in the association of devotees, a person gains distaste for sense gratification, both in this world and in the next, by constantly thinking about the activities of the Lord. It's a higher taste, isn't it? Devotees, they give us this higher taste. You get more pleasure. And naturally it's easy to not be inclined towards the mundane tastes. The process of Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of mystic power. When one is actually situated on that path of devotional service, he is able to control the mind. We were reading yesterday in some notes also that Prabhupada said the easiest way to control the mind is to always be thinking how to spread Krishna consciousness. The easiest way to control the mind. We may not be so advanced that we're thinking of Krishna's pastimes. We should hear about them, but at our stage they may not come to the forefront in the same way. I'll give you the quote if you want it later. I just put it in shape yesterday. I think I can find it. I mean, it's difficult when you've got hundreds of thousands of notes all in a jumble, you know. I'm not very organized. I used to be before computers came along. Ever since computers came along, my notes were a total mess. It was so much better when you had handwritten notes. You could find things really easy. Same with the books. You know, it was easy to find things. Now it's so difficult to get things to do. Live with the times that are with thee. Yeah. How to think how to push forward this Krishna conscious movement all over the world. It's the meditation of a devotee. There may be many other things within that, of course. how to chant attentively, how to, whatever, different aspects to try to improve our quality of devotion. How to behave better and so on and so forth. But in the association of these sadhus, then we can imbibe the qualities of the sadhu. Potentiality is already there. Who knows that verse? Yes, Steve. What does that mean?
The devotees have all the good qualities of the demigods.
More than that, even more than when they add that, much more too.
That and more.
And they're the real sur, they're the real gods.
And the non-devotees have no good qualities because they're always on the middle platform.
Yeah. And Prabhupada did translate it when he said no good qualities. Now, a lot of neophyte devotees have a hard time to completely manifest, or to completely appreciate that. They're very kind devotees, we're very arrogant sometimes, and they don't care less. They don't even say prasadam when I go out all day long. I come back, there's only cold rice left. Never talk to me. I've been lying on my bed for the last 6 days and no one's even come to ask me how I am. Got a fever of 107.9. Whatever. Of course there's another side to that as well. But as my karmi neighbor who helped me out, they're much nicer than the devotee. And that's not true in the absolute sense, but it appears at the neophyte stage. But probably one translation he gives to that, he said, even if they have good qualities, what's the use of them? They're useless. They just keep you in Maya. As they say, even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. Let's face it. Big rat, small rat, but you're still a rat. Big fat rat. Even bigger than the cat.
Whoa.
A big fat rat bigger than the cat. And there's a fact in many places the cats run away when they see the rats. In Philippines they run away. They're scared of them. They're so big. And association of devotees is so important. Hare Krishna. And everyone sitting, this carpet is so comfortable too, isn't it? Good for kirtan, good for sitting on. Prayers, maybe good for praying. I guess that's the Muslims' main limb, isn't it? Prayer, as far as their, sadhana goes, prayer. Yeah.
Maharaj, in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is speaking about how
Which one?
the class, the original one, speaking about how more or less these people are condemned.
More or less.
More or less. And is it because even though they're performing mystic yoga, they may seem very renounced, they're jnanis, all these things, but just because they're averse to Krishna, that's why they get punished by the laws of material nature?
Well, the punishment is different according to each person's relationship with him. It may not appear to be punishment. It may appear a reward. You're going to heaven. You're getting liberated. You've got mystic powers. Krishna may award all these things, but for a devotee, that's hell. It's worse than hell, isn't it? Because it's devoid of a loving relationship with Krishna. And why is it? Because you become even more distanced from Krishna. You become even more distanced. In Brahmajyoti, there's not even a thought of Krishna, not even a thought, what to speak of a negation. There's not even a thought of devotional service. It's the most condemned situation. Going to heaven, people become completely enamored, totally enamored with it, attached. And mystic power is, what can you say? It speaks for itself. Any kind of material opulence can carry us away. Anyone. Condemned. Even you may get, materially speaking, what you aspire for. When even in devotional service, sometimes it's mixed. Mostly our devotional service is mixed with these goals, these objectives. Some material objective, some personal objective. This devotee wants to become nirvittatash, freed of these. No material. Anyavilasita, you all know that verse, at least that one. Anyavilasita chanyam jnanakramadinam. Without any tinge of these various goals that people have, purposes. Yeah. So for a devotee, there's nothing worse than that. They'd rather go to hell. I mean, how many verses there are?
Yeah.
They'd rather go to hell than gain liberation. Heaven or hell, what difference does it make to a devotee in one sense? But liberate Brahman, what are you going to do in Brahman? I mean, the level of, there's two sides. One is you've got to come to that level of Brahman, we just read that. Then real devotional service begins. But, we don't want to, that's not our goal, just to come to the level of Brahman. Brahman meaning spiritual. But it's to serve Krishna. That's our goal.
And Maharaj, you were also saying, Srila Prabhupada said the easiest way to control the mind is how to just think about always spreading Krishna consciousness. So, how would that be different from a workaholic mentality? Like just work, but you're not focusing on sadhana.
Work now, samadhi later. Well, yeah, there's more to it than that, isn't there? I mean, a workaholic, and the word is used when people work around the clock doing something, for whatever reason it is, good or bad. So a devotee is a workaholic, but we have to know what our work is. And the process of devotional service is not just speculation, it's not just, we have to hear from our authorities how to execute our service. Not just, I remember to come to mind, and it's kind of related, but when I was at first, 1973, 72, it would be 73. 1973. One devotee joined the temple. Michael, his name was. Your Guru Maharaj won't know him. He left before. He left in 74. But he was a prominent devotee in the 2 years he was there. You'll see many pictures of him with Prabhupada. I won't mention his devotee name, otherwise it may not look good. I would just say he was a workaholic, but in a different way. A devotee is, many of these words can be used in different ways. Fanatic, workaholic, they can all be used in different ways. But he tried to imitate. Devotee doesn't imitate, he follows. Follows the example, follows the guidelines. Prabhupada made it quite clear, chanting and hearing, devotional service must be there in various aspects, not we just all day long work. Some people will be like that, by the way, even Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita, you just work for me. Some people may be at that level, but that's not what we're trying to cultivate. One wants to come to a platform above this identity, above this level of just following the modes of nature which we're presently covered by. It's good that one's just working for Krishna if that's where you're at. But we want to purify ourselves, rise above the modes of nature. So the process of Vaidhi Bhakti is to help us to other things too, but one of them is to rise above the modes of nature. So this devotee, he was trying to imitate Raghunath Das Goswami. That was his hero when he joined. So he was literally trying to imitate. He hardly slept. He upped his rounds to trying to chant 64 rounds a day. He would chant under the cold shower if he had to. He hardly slept 2 hours a day. He would be eating remnants out of the bin, leftovers of the devotees' prasad, or guests even. And he would be out on Sankirtan. Every moment he was out on Sankirtan that he could spare, after all the other things. But he wasn't following authority. He wasn't following authority. He was speculating. Don't speculate. To find out what is appropriate for your particular situation. As much, and if we don't have anyone who can seem to answer, then we pray and we try to ask the Lord for guidance. But we don't just speculate just because we like something. We don't like something. We're here to know what Krishna likes as well. Krishna wants us to, through his pure devotee, he's made it quite clear he wants us. And besides that, especially when you're preaching, how much potency will you have if you don't hear from Bhagavatam? If you don't hear the Bhagavatam, you're going to go on the street and become attracted to the girls instead of distributing books to them, or whatever you do. And same with the girls. You will be attracted to the objects instead of the purpose. You'll become weak, your intelligence will be weak by hearing Shastra. Intelligence becomes weak. You're seeing things in the wrong way, and we've got to change our perception by exposing ourselves to the holy name carefully. Then our perception of things changes. You become overwhelmed by anger if you don't practically practice Vaidhi Bhakti. You become irritated, attracted, to food which is not offered to Krishna, music which has nothing to do with Krishna. All these things will attract and disturb our consciousness very easily when we're preaching in particular, or distributing books. You get angry, excuse me, my legs are getting, no, I don't like that, I'm going to move them around a bit. Sometimes we see devotees, they can, it's a big thing, isn't it? You get tested on the street. It's a common thing. I guess I hear is very common in England. Where it's common in France too, but because I don't speak French, it never happens to me. So I don't know what they're talking about anyway. They go away when they realize I don't know what I'm talking about. But the Christians, so many of these enthusiastic, preachers, whatever. They talk to you real nice, you think they're really interested. Oh, yeah. You're talking away, and then, well, that's really interesting, but have you ever heard of Jesus?
No, man.
30 minutes later, oh, God. Have you ever had that experience?
All the time.
It's common, huh?
Jesus.
Huh?
Yes.
It's a common thing, isn't it? You kind of, inner anger overcomes us sometimes, It's to see beyond all these things. First of all, to detect it in the first place, if your consciousness is really tuned in, you can quickly get there before it even starts. Cut it out before it starts, or do whatever needed. And then not becoming disturbed if something like that does happen. It doesn't help anyone. You start sometimes you argue with someone on the street. How do you feel when you argue? Neither they nor you leave with a very good taste. But when we have good sadhana, dancing nicely, that's very important. Dancing is so much under stressed, I'd say. Under stress especially. no, not it's forced, but to some degree it is slightly encouraged, we could say. So much energy, and you feel so purified after a strong kirtan and lots of dancing. So purified, so relieved of a lot of passion as well. It's like it purifies us of the tendency to be passionate. So we hear the Shastra, free from ignorance, chant the holy names, purifying our consciousness, free ourselves from passion. And a balanced service as well. Balanced service, and appreciate the various limbs of devotional service are there. Engage our senses in various ways. But if we don't have some solid sadhana to preach, it was very difficult to continue without becoming disturbed. Difficult to tolerate, to develop the qualities which really attract people, the qualities, not just the mechanics, but the qualities of the devotee, their inner qualities. It's what transforms the consciousness of others. Anyway, that devotee was eventually ended up in hospital, and anyway, he disappeared. I don't know what happened to him after some time. We don't want to be why are we going out all the time on the street? Why would one do that? Or why would one do anything? Maybe because there may be a motivation behind it. You may have misunderstood the application of the instructions of the spiritual master. One may like doing it. One may like being praised for doing it. And of course, one may have an absolute, genuine mood of compassion, but you have to be on a pretty high level to really say that. You can't say that on a low level of devotional maturity. We have to purify our hearts first. Simultaneous, Prabhupada said, both should go on, not one or the other, they should both go on simultaneously. Both paths, both practice and preaching, as our acharyas have taught us. As Lord Chaitanya said to Haridas Thakur, you perfect devotee, you both practice and preach what you practice, and practice what you preach. Both should be done. Prabhupada said that about the books. When he distributed books, he said that, well, if someone asked you what's in the book, you said, I don't know. You read it, you'll find out. That's not good. He said, you should know what's in there. You're just doing the books. You should know. Prabhupada tested the devotee one time. He said, so, what are the qualities of a devotee? What are the qualities? 26 qualities. Nobody knew.
Humility.
Huh? Pardon?
Right.
When Prabhupada asked, nobody knew. And then one very clever devotee said, they're in the book, Srila Prabhupada.
Oh, no.
You can read them in the book. They were young devotees. He wasn't saying that to Prabhupada. He wasn't like challenging Prabhupada, like you can read them as if he didn't know. But no, he said he didn't know. They're young devotees. They weren't even initiated. You can hear Prabhupada, so Stephen, so Bruce. You can hear him say the names. What are the 26 qualities? It was a big thing in the early years of ISKCON. Everywhere you look, the 26 qualities the devotee would paste it up. In the bathroom, on the front door, in the kitchen, everywhere there was a sheet with the 26 qualities of the Vaishnava. Never see it now, hardly ever. But those days it was. So it started right in the beginning, 66. And Prabhupada said, it's not enough just to know that they're in the book. You have to know them also. Prabhupada said, you're very embarrassed. He said, it's very embarrassing if they say what's in the book and you can't answer. So obviously you have to hear what's in the book. Otherwise, if you don't hear it, if you say, oh, chant Hare Krishna, be happy, and you're not even chanting yourself. To Try to get people to chant. Of course, everything's Neha Bikram Nasho steep, but we want to go a bit further than that. Yeah. And it's very joyful. I mean, what's wrong with it? You know, I know in a marathon it's difficult sometimes. I don't know if marathons what they're like here, but in England in the old day, and even today, Europe, the cities are very busy. You've seen that? Some of you have been to a European city. The city centres are really busy, aren't they?
Yeah, really busy.
Whew. They're like beehive, like an ant hill, beehives. People everywhere. You can hardly move sometimes. Especially in the Christmas period, it used to be like that. So in America, they're not, maybe in New York a little bit, but most places are not much like that. Kind of a bit spread out with the shopping malls and this. But Europe still maintains its focus on city centre. People like it. And even small towns on Saturday, they're so busy. So, you know, you're in marathon, and you don't want to waste a minute. You can hardly eat. You chant your rounds as quick as possible. You try to read a little bit, and you're on the street, isn't it? I don't know how you do it here. That's how we used to do it. And you sat there. You're distributing. And time for lunch Gayatri. You sit down in the first place you can or stand, and it's difficult to chant. There's people walking by. You've got your book in one hand and a Gayatri thread in the other. Take a book. But got another one. It's just that's a kind of different spirit, probably like that too. But you can't do that all the time. You can't do that all the time. He said it's like practical samadhi, but you can't do that all the time. Unless you're absolutely Uttama Bhagavat playing the role of a Madhya. They could, but they won't because they're showing an example because they know that you can. So they teach an example for those who aren't on that level by showing them how to practically get the balance. Reading Prabhupada's books, dancing and chanting, associating with devotees, regulated program, Mangalarti, this, that and the other, following principles. But people won't take it seriously anyway. You think people are going to do what you're doing? 12 hours, 16 hours a day, run around the street. That's what the Hare Krishnas do. That's what they think we do. They think all you guys do is you run around the street all day long, selling books or chanting Hare Krishna or something. They don't realize we're doing all these other things too. And when they do, there's more to it than that. Japa, this one, that one. Quite a full program, isn't it? Prabhupada called it a sandwich. One time we called it the ISKCON sandwich. Morning and evening program. It's like a sandwich. You got your bread. I saw the bread downstairs in the kitchen, in the prasad room. 2 slices, Yeah, in America they like their burgers, isn't it? Burger. 1 up, 1 down. You don't just have 1 down. Certainly not 1 up. You have to have 2. That makes it, complete. A morning and evening program, it's like the bread, and then the filling during the day. Nice. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Lord Premanandi.
Hari Hari Bol. His Holiness Janananda Maharaja ki jai.
Hare Krishna. So, Hare Krishna. Today is a packing day, I heard. Is that right?
It's tomorrow, Marsh.
Huh?
Tomorrow.
What are you doing today?
Whatever we have planned. Books are coming in tomorrow. So.
Oh, I thought you were going to be making up packets today.
Yeah, we were hoping the book order will arrive this
Pardon?
morning. We're hoping the book order arrive this morning, but
Oh, it's not arriving, huh?
it's arriving tomorrow morning.
Oh, what are you going to do today?